Fillers are the bane of Naruto. Most people didn't exactly like them when the show was airing, and with the entire series now behind us, almost half of the anime is nothing but filler. Most of these episodes were either pointless, cut away from something much more interesting, or were just badly done in general. It is almost impossible to get someone into Naruto today without following some sort of filler skipping guide. Yet some of these episodes actually do provide some value. In fact, a few of my favorite fill in holes left in the original source material, though some definitely do it better than others. Yugao Uzuki is one such hole left over in the manga, a member of the Anbu who was clearly set up to have an entire arc that just never came. Yet she gets a decent, though not perfect, send-off in the filler. In canon, all we really know about Yugao is that she was a member of the Anbu close to Hayate. During the Chunin exams, Hayate stumbles across Kabuto and Baki talking about their plans to invade the Leaf Village. They find Hayate and Baki kills him after a brief fight. Yugao was one of the Anbu who found Hayate's body, and later on we actually get a scene of her kneeling by his grave and swearing to take vengeance for him. Now this is the part where I'd like to mention how this vengeance plot actually goes. But the truth is, it doesn't go anywhere. The source material pretty much just forgets all about Yugao from this point on. Sure, we do see her a handful of times in a panel or two. For instance, we see a brief conversation between her and Kakashi when she comes to put flowers down for Hayate, but still, none of her appearances from this point on do anything to advance her story or her character, and that's a big shame. There was a lot of potential here, but pretty much all of it was wasted. Besides Yugao being one of the few people who really seemed to understand Kakashi, if their brief conversation was anything to go by, she was also one of the few named Anbu in the entire series. In the world of ninja and ninja villages, it was always surprising to me just how little attention the actual Leaf Village Anbu got. Honestly, their only real use was in showing us how strong other threats were, especially during the Pain invasion or the Ninetales attack. Outside of that and looking menacing in the background, they never really did anything. Yugao was supposed to be a chance to change that. Just imagine for a second an entire vengeance arc where we see the Anbu's inner working, with Yugao determined on her quest while struggling with her Anbu obligations, all the while we see a side of the Leaf Village we've never seen before. There is definitely something there if only Kishimoto had chosen to focus on it. And when we did end up seeing more of the Anbu, it was largely thanks to filler, mainly the Kakashi filler arc in Shippuden, one of my all-time favorites. But that shouldn't have had to have been filler. In the canon timeline, a lot of that arc's utility could have been done with Yugao. Now let's talk about how this character did fit into the eventual filler arcs. She was picked up by the Anbu and trained at a young age thanks to her having some proficiency in both sensory abilities and kenjutsu. And while in the Anbu, Yugao directly served under Kakashi for some time. It's pretty heavily implied that she had some kind of adoration for Kakashi, even if she eventually went her own way. One of the notable events she was involved with was the aftermath of the Uchiha massacre, where it was Yugao who found Sasuke in the wreckage of his former clan. During her time in the Anbu, she met Hayate, who became her sword instructor. The two got close pretty quickly, eventually falling in love. Hayate even went on to teach her many of his signature jutsu, and at that point, she was dedicated to two things: the art of the sword and Hayate himself. During the Chunin exams, some of the Anbu stationed to keep track of Sasuke were killed, and Hayate was assigned the duty of tracking down their killer. It was a dangerous mission, but one anyone in the Anbu was more than ready for. And before heading on his mission, they shared a promise that they would always love each other. As we now know, this was the last time Hayate saw Yugao. Yugao found his body the next morning and swore to take vengeance. She resigned from the Anbu, and for quite a while, that's pretty much all we heard about her. Much later on, during the 4th grade ninja war, Yugao was assigned to the logistics support and medical division. Her team went out into the field to collect the corpses of their slain comrades, keeping their bodies from the enemy. Yugao in particular was selected because she had some skill with sealing corpses into scrolls. She was both efficient and capable, making many of the people assigned with her wonder why she was even there rather than fighting on the front lines. It's during one of these missions that she runs into the corpse of Hayate after being revived by Kabuto's Ito Tensei. Kabuto had given Hayate a mission to steal something called the Killed in Action Scroll. This is the place where Yugao's team was sealing all of the shinobi corpses they came across. When confronted with the reincarnated body of her once lover, Yugao was helpless. She simply couldn't raise her blade against Hayate. Her team had to step in to protect her, many of them getting injured in the process. She was confronted by her allies, who urged her to fight, if only because Hayate needed to be freed. She was eventually confronted by Sakura, and that's where we found out what had become of Yugao's quest for vengeance. Despite wanting and training for it, Yugao eventually came to see her own swords in a different light. They were a symbol symbol of her lover's death, haunting her anytime she so much as looked at them. You could see the massive problem this would be for someone whose skills rely almost entirely on their sword use. Still, everyone does eventually convince her to go on the mission to retrieve the scroll. Here, she has her confrontation with Hayate. The two fight, Yugao battling him with the techniques Hayate himself had once taught her, such as the dance of the crescent moon. Hayate praised her newfound strength as he was slowly beaten. But before it could end, Kabuto took over Hayate's conscience, trying to kill Yugao herself. Hayate resisted his control just enough for Yugao to come out unharmed and immobilize him. The scroll was recovered and Hayate was sealed like all of the other corpses. In the end, Yugao had to bring down the same person who had taught her everything, the man who had saved her even after his own death. And where that leaves Yugao is pretty open-ended, because that is the end of her filler. From that point on, she's never really mentioned. I'm not even sure if she still exists in Boruto, or if she was forgotten as she once was in Naruto. Yugao's long quest for vengeance didn't really pan out the way one might expect back in the original show, but it was still a tale of losing someone and confronting the grief that came with it. Compared to what she got in the source material, which was nothing, I'd say that's a plus for the filler. Unfortunately, actually watching this filler does feel a little bit limited and rushed, which makes sense considering the tight restraints put on filler. Frankly, I'm kind of surprised they did anything with Yugao at all. Of course, the way this filler interacts with the canon is a little bit tricky, because while Yugao was never really revisited in the manga, she does show up in panels from time to time. One of the biggest examples would have been during the Pain Invasion arc, where Yugao is one of the Anbu shown protecting Tsunade. How does this tie into the fact that the filler said she abandoned the Anbu after Hayate's death? Well, truthfully it doesn't. As best as I could tell, this is just one of those strange slip-ups that happen when you tell an anime over the course of 700 plus episodes. Yugao is a very minor character. Even in her own dedicated arc, she doesn't quite get all of the spotlight. Still, she did get far more justice than she did in the original series. That's the real value of filler. Look, Naruto is a gigantic world with hundreds of different named characters, all of whom can have their own interesting arcs. It's unreasonable to expect all of them to be given their time in the spotlight. Even One Piece doesn't do that, and we have over 1,000 episodes over there. Hence, fillers can be a pretty decent way to flesh out the original story without taking anything away from it. Now, some of these filler arcs are frankly absurd, but a lot of them have their redeeming moments. The Kakashi filler arc is one of the best in Naruto, and I'd say it is pretty much a necessary watch at this point. I also personally love the Three Tails arc and didn't even realize it wasn't canon until I read the manga later on. There was just something about seeing the Akatsuki claim all the tailed beasts rather than seeing them all disappear in the background that was really cool. The 12 Guardian Ninja arc is also something that feels very nostalgic for me. Yes, about 40% of Naruto is filler, hundreds and hundreds of episodes, but in those episodes there are some gems that we all might have overlooked while they were airing. If you like this content, make sure to subscribe, hit the like button, and turn on that notification bell. Before I go, I just want to give a quick shout out to all of the incredible patrons over at patreon.com/KatoYT. We're super active in our patron Discord server, occasionally throwing some late night anime and movie watch parties, so if that's something you're interested in, pledge just a single $1 to get an invite. You can also follow us on Twitter at KatoBeyond. Links to everything will be in the description. Again, my name is Hoodie, this is Kato, and thank you for watching.